So, Ken, very excited about this.
Wow.
Wow, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yes. Okay.
So, thank you again for joining us here. Ken is our brand ambassador, and he knows a lot about cigar pairings with different type of alcohol. On our first video, we talked about wine pairing, and you gave us a lot of beautiful information. And I was thinking, we should work on a series talking about the lifestyle surrounding the cigar, right? So a lot of people focus on the cigar, the binder, the filler, the wrapper, the construction, the masterpiece behind it. And we take for granted the fact that we have a lifestyle around the cigar, right? So we like cigars with something to drink, sometimes nothing to drink, whether it's coffee, wine, whiskey, bourbon. And then also how we enjoy our cigars. Sometimes we enjoy it when it's hot outside, when it's cold outside, with people, without people, just depending. You know, I'm working on a women's cigar now, inspired by women, and a lot of women smoke alone.
Yes.
I didn't know that. They just kind of like to unwind and just sit, you know, outside and
we all have
enjoy
our
a
methods,
cigar.
I guess,
It was very enlightening.
Yeah.
So here, I'm very happy about this whiskey, not only because it's absolutely stunning. What I just tasted was incredible, and it pairs beautifully with our Endure, which is a cigar that is a masterpiece. It's close to perfection as it can get, and this whiskey seems very close to that as well. So I know that this is one of our retailers in Scotland.
Absolutely.
And he makes this whiskey. Tell me about it.
Yes. So Robert Graham in Scotland, run by our dear friend Stephen Johnston. He came up, him and this artist, Stephen Chambers, they came up with this series of whiskies. So Stephen Johnston, as an independent bottler, released this series of small batch single cask whiskies that are very, very interesting. I managed to sneak a bottle with me. This is a Carrillo 12-year-old. Fantastic distillery. This was distilled actually in 2011, but only bottled until 2023. And it's 50% ABV, by the way. So we're talking about cask strength, very intense, very generous, and very, very delicious whiskey. This is a Speyside. The notes are, we're still discovering with the Endure. Is going fantastically well, and we wanted to share this with you. Actually, the Court of Redonda is the name of the series of these whiskeys that they release, and it comes out of the inspiration that the artist Stephen Chambers had with his conversations back in the day with the Spanish novelist, Spanish writer Javier Marías, where they feature these non-royals in these portraits and these paintings. And they release actually a series of paintings, which many of them are here in the US. But the bottle, I was lucky enough to grab bottle number 8 of 131. And
thank you for bringing it.
My pleasure. Very privileged to have it with you, Lissette. It's fantastic.
Now tell me, how did you know that these two would work together, right? Because you said, I think that the perfect cigar for this is Endure. What should someone look for when they're pairing a cigar with a whiskey?
I think when we're doing two products that are so complex like these two, I think our best bet will be go by similarity. That will be my hunch. And when I first tried this and I saw the nutmeg, the little notes of ginger and almond, and it reminded me a lot of the complexity, subtleness, and how delicate Endure is. So I said, you know what, let's give it a try. And that's it. Sometimes you will see that the strength might be something that might scare you a little bit. Some people are a bit apprehensive into trying something that is above our normal 35, 37.5 or 40% alcohol. This is a 50%. But if we're talking about a whiskey that is extremely elegant and delicate, that kind of undertones a little bit, like kind of like makes the alcohol a little bit more submissive, makes it very enjoyable.
It's absolutely
and
stunning.
So far, I think it's behaving very, very well. So I was a little bit, let's try, but yeah, I think it's working fine.
It's almost, I mean, look at the similarity even in color, right?
I think, yeah.
I know that that's not something we'd go by usually, but it is
helps.
a perfect match here.
Yeah.
So what tips do you have for someone maybe just starting out in figuring out, maybe they like a certain whiskey, but it's not working that well with their favorite cigar. So what tips do you have?
What to do? I guess that rule number one is if it brings you pleasure, by all means, go for it. But it depends, because if you are, let's say, a whiskey drinker that likes more intensity, strength, complexity, and peat, for example, with whiskeys from Islay, stuff like that. It's very hard to pair one of those whiskeys with a light cigar. If you enjoy it, by all means, go for it. But I would think you'll be better off with a full flesh, full power, full flavor, full complexity cigar. It'll be easier to go by similarity. Going by contracts will be a little bit challenging, but it will be really cool and really fun to see if somebody has discovered, a very...
Please leave some comments, because we'd love to learn about this type of experiences.
Next thing you know, there's somebody that has discovered that this cigar that is the complete antithesis of this whiskey go fantastically, and they enjoy it. Again, that will depend palate to palate, but I think going by similarity will be the best thing. If you like more floral, delicate, slightly mineral whiskeys, think about cigars that provide more suppleness, and they're a bit more soft in expression, nutty, creamy, gentle, and I think you'll be safe.
Like a New Wave.
For example, that'll be fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something nice and easy that you can approach anytime. Yeah.
This is medium, and the whiskey's falling on my mouth. I would say medium.
Absolutely.
It's the best way to describe it. It's kind of this intensity that is not too much or too little.
But it's funny because
soothing. It's very
even though it's medium, don't you feel the amount of flavor of this cigar?
Yes, absolutely.
You feel a very distinctive flavor that I don't think we had in our portfolio. This is very unique. So, and that's a fair point, when sometimes we conflict intensity with strength, how much something feels in terms of flavors and aromas, and how actual strong is the cigar. And I think we'll do the same with whiskey. Not because it's a 50%, it will be aggressive. Quite the opposite. It's quite enjoyable. Once you cross that first,
it's creamy.
Yeah.
The
first one is a little bit.
It has that intensity.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes it just wow in your mouth. And you kind of want to keep having some.
Yes. So creamy after.
And it's 50%. So yeah, we could be in trouble.
Don't read that number.
Anyway.
Yes.
So what? I guess what other ideas would you have? For example, if someone says, "Okay, so I want to start my evening with something like this, with some friends, et cetera.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here?
I would
say you're having dinner plans after, and then you're going to smoke again later. Because I've heard stories where someone could start with a certain pairing. And, have their meal, and then go back to the same experience. And maybe it just doesn't taste the same. So tell us a little bit about that. How maybe something that you eat in the middle of two different smoke sessions
100%,
can affect
100%.
The experience.
Yeah, I think because of the level of alcohol and flavor in this bottle, this should be towards the end of the experience, because you'll need to have a super power palate to be able to handle more stuff after these two flavor bombs are in your palate. So I would say this is more, if you have a script, this is more towards the end of the script, I would say. Yes, there is people that love to interrupt their meals or have a break, revisit their cigar, come back. There's people like me that I love to have a cigar before the meal, or even the same cigar, and then continue after it. And then some other friends of ours that love to smoke while they eat, which is a little bit too much, but it's okay. You can do whatever you want. But the truth is that if you want to have the true experience of the true flavor that this cigar has to provide, and how beautifully it pairs with this whiskey in particular, which is it's a very special whiskey, so I wouldn't say you will begin here, maybe, especially because it's very rare. It's only 130 bottles. It's a very small production. Maybe you start with something a bit more abundant, a bit more available.
Like what?
I would say
at least a region. If you want to talk about a region.
you can continue with the same region, but maybe a 7-year-old. For example, instead of a 12 or a 14, this independent bottler produces a fantastic whiskey, 14-year-old, bottled a couple years ago, but distilled maybe over 10 years ago. That after you have that cigar, I will think of, after you have that whiskey, it's over. I will think of a pledge for that. It's smoky, it's It's not peaty, by the way, but it's smoky, meaty, even way meatier than this. So it's like after that, you're ready to close the evening, I would say.
And I have a question. You know, in the United States, you hear a lot Macallan, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to try this with a Macallan, does it matter what year? I know that there's different years. Does it matter? Because you're talking now about the aging process.
Yes.
Right? And there's an aging process with cigars, and there's an aging process with whiskey.
Absolutely.
And with wine and a lot of other alcohol. So tell me a little bit about that. Just so if somebody says, hey, I want to run over to Total Wine and I want to get a Macallan.
Yeah.
With the Endure, which one would you get? And obviously I know that there's, you know, financial questions involved too.
Of course,
because there's,
of course.
But just something on the more reasonable side, what would you say?
I would think start on your 12, 15-year-old. Start there. That's your base. You can't go wrong. And from there, especially a producer like Edrington, like Macallan, you have so many avenues. I'll give you an example. Age and aging is a component, but also if you have cask or whiskeys that have gone through different casks is another story. For example, you can have amazing single malts that have gone 10 years on cask, and after they have gone another 2 or 3 years in cherry cask, oloroso cask, for example, which would add another series of layers of flavors and aromas, and it will change the profile of the whiskey. So basically, probably for an ex-cherry cask, you will look at something or a cigar that will be a little bit more sweet, a little bit more intense, because you know this whiskey will come up with a ginormous amount of flavor, so it will absolutely change the whole dynamic. This has spent 12 years, 100% in one cask only. Again, it's hard to tell by how much alcohol it has. You have to start with a baseline. So I say start with your 12s to 15s to 18s. You can't go wrong. From there, you have a feeling, and then you decide which avenue to go. It shouldn't be too complicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think maybe people who are thinking about pairing cigars with alcohol or with whiskey, scotch in particular, any other advice?
Open your mind, open your mouth. Try as much as you can. That's about it. Try as much as you can.
You can't go wrong.
Responsibly. You could go wrong. If it goes wrong, don't do it again.
Right.
But at the end of the day, put things to the test, because when you told me about the pairings, I said, wait a minute, this might work with Endure. It might have not worked with Endure.
Absolutely.
On paper, it seems like it worked.
It seems like it.
It could have not worked. And if it doesn't work, just move on. And I think it's good for us to be honest that even if it's the best whiskey in the world, the best drink in the world, and the best cigar in the world, if the pairing doesn't work, and you adjust.
I almost know, because we just did the video with La Historia and wine, and I almost know what's going to happen. And I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
I kind of know what's going to happen if I had La Historia with this, and I don't want to do it necessarily, right? Because I would probably be looking for something even more intense, a little bit, because this has the sweetness. Right?
Yeah, it has like a bit of a honey and a caramel. It does have it, which would
go nice with La Historia.
It could, in paper, in principle, we think that it will.
But then I know that I'd kind of want something even, it's hard to describe. A little bit of improvising here, everyone.
I love it. Can I have some fire?
Absolutely.
There we
go. Here you go.
Let's see.
Okay, here we go.
The aroma is so distinctive. Cheers.
Let's try. Different.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all, but very different.
It is absolutely different. It changes the profile.
I had a firecracker.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way to say it.
Right?
I'm a bit confused. I don't know which one I like the most. Two complete different expressions. Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. In all fairness, also, we were a little bit more advanced on La Historia, or at least I was.
I know,
but it just works.
Before, it's just smooth.
Yeah. And now we have something
almost
more
just
going on.
Relaxing.
Yeah.
You know? Now it's like something's talking to me. Something, right? Like some neurons are popping in my brain.
I like the firecracker. You feel more of a fiery, smoky.
It's fiery.
Yeah. And it kind
incredible.
of enhances a little bit more of the meaty, kind of umami type of a flavor of the whiskey. It's very, very special. Very, very special.
Now, you do a lot of pairings. Did you know this would happen?
The best thing is discover things that you never
I'm
tried
an
before.
attorney also, by the way. So these are the type of things I do.
Yes.
I like to test
This is
theories
lovely.
and
This is lovely.
put it to the test.
It is really, really lovely.
My whole, right? So you're
Yeah.
feeling that too.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I'm thinking about a lot of things we can do with this type of pairing, these type of experiences.
Actually, now that you say it, I want to put it to a test with one of the smokiest of the range and see how far we can push that whiskey in particular in terms of our portfolio. How can we pair that whiskey with Pledge, with Historia? With Encore, I'm thinking of something a bit more mineral, a little bit more subdued, because maybe this in particular and the other one will be a little bit, the 14-year-old will be a little bit too much. But again, until we put it to a test, I think we'll have to find out.
I think we're going to have to do a lot more videos.
100%.
So you know what you guys have to do? Subscribe. If you want to learn more, and please ask all the questions you want. I will get Ken personally to answer any of the more technical ones that I can't answer with respect to this pairing or any pairings. He is someone that knows a lot. He doesn't like to call himself an expert.
No, not at all. I like to drink and smoke.
Any questions that you have, please drop them below and we will take care of answering them. Wow,
Absolutely.
I just had an amazing experience. So.
Really, really, really cool thing to do. That was fantastic. I think I have a favorite now. I might. Salud.